Hey everyone, Rho here. Today we're discussing the Emperor's ultimate goal of humanity governing themselves. Was he right or wrong to believe they could? General spoiler warning to begin, as the events we're discussing today are from across the Warhammer 40k universe, so you have been warned. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. So the God Emperor, undisputed ruler of the Imperium, and self-appointed master of mankind. It was he who emerged in the wake of humanity's darkness and begun to shepherd his race towards the future. His future. An evolved, enlightened, unified, dominant humanity. And he very nearly achieved it. Perhaps unlikely as it is, he still might. However, for all the Emperor's self-appointed position, his supreme power, the fact is he always intended for the simple men and women of the Imperium to govern themselves. That it wasn't in him and his genetically engineered sons that the Imperium's fate would reside, but in the people. Now, what you choose to believe the Emperor's intentions were for himself and his sons beyond that is up to you. But I think it's pretty undeniable that this was the Emperor's ultimate aim. For baseline humanity to govern themselves. And with that in mind, it was during my recent reread of the Dark Imperium trilogy that it really made me ask, was the Emperor right? Was this the right goal to have? Now, the reason I begun to ponder this question is from a direct comment from Rabute Guilliman himself, within the pages of Dark Imperium. In vocally regretting that he gave up Ultramarine governance of the 500 worlds of Ultramar, Guilliman states, "I should not have done it. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was following the Emperor's wishes, letting men rule the affairs of men." Again, Guilliman reaffirms that the Emperor made it clear the governorship of the Imperium was to be done by mortals, not him or his brothers. And he continues, later confirming, "And yet I return to life and find the Imperium a prison for its people. By avoiding one problem, I created another. If I had left Ultramar intact, more worlds would have been havens from such pain, and remained centres of reason." And the problem that Guilliman's referring to here is not wanting anyone to wield the power of a legion, his implementation of the Codex Astartes. And there's one final damning comment from his opinion. "I forgot about the petty self-interest of lesser men." So it's pretty clear Guilliman believes the Emperor's logic was wrong. Being reborn and looking around at the state of the Imperium, he believes control should have remained with the Astartes. And as we are seeing with his forceful re-implementation of Ultramar's borders, his taking control from Imperial governors into Astartes' hands. So was the Emperor wrong? Judging by the grimdark of the 40k universe, you'd be forgiven for immediately stating a resounding yes, that they simply can't look past their own mortal lives, that at some point in time, selfishness or corruption would take over. However, I say no, the Emperor was not wrong. That at some point in time, governance should have come to mortal lives. For me, I think Malcador the Sigillite summed it up the best in the short story The Last Council by L.J. Goulding, when in the process of humbling 3 Primarchs, Malcador utters the line, "And this This is why mankind cannot be ruled by the post-humans. Your concerns are not those of ordinary men, who must eat and sleep, and love and fear, and ultimately die, all without ever knowing the kind of immortality you so crave. If you cannot see this, then you are all the proof I need. The Primarchs, even the Astartes, are just too far removed from the everyday lives of mortals. Perhaps yes, in some ways that can be a benefit, but in many ways it's not. How can you make decisions on things you simply can't understand? Something as simple as a world's agriculture, when you don't even know the struggle of feeding your family. The pains of hunger when you haven't eaten. For all the elevation of a planetary governor or a High Lord of Terror, at least they instinctively share all of those needs, wants, passions, desires that make being human human. We're not perfect, but that makes us who we are. The Emperor, for all his other sins, understood that. While Guilliman may like to look down on the flaws of humanity, are the Primarchs really any better? I forgot about the petty self-interest of lesser men. Really, Rabute? What exactly was the heresy, if not petty self-interest? What was Horus's betrayal, Perturabo's, Fulgrim's embrace of Slaanesh, Kurz's depravity? Maybe Guilliman should look to himself before chiding the people he is supposed to serve. Were it not for that petty self-interest, the heresy would never have arisen. Indeed, one could ask why Ultramar is the only sub-realm of the Imperium to be reborn or formed. One that just so happens to be in his own lineage. For me, the fact the Imperium stagnated and fell to an almost darkness is not the Emperor's fault, and it doesn't mean that his intention was flawed. The Emperor always intended to be there to guide humanity along its journey. The Emperor was the figurehead of the Imperium, but they were to govern it, to run it themselves, and he was to be there to guide that process. The heresy irrevocably interfered with that. And I have to say, I think Guilliman himself played a certain role in the Imperium's downfall as well. He abolished the legions. Yes, they may have been dispersed into chapters, but that element of threat, that punishment, was gone. The Emperor made legions for the conquest of the galaxy, but I fully believe that they had a role to play after it as well. In Lehman Russ's Primarch novel The Great Wolf by Chris Wright, we witness Russ in the aftermath of the Siege of Terra, where he is consumed with his grief, and the Emperor comes to Russ in his dreams. And here, as the two walk together across the snow of Fenris, Russ remarks to his father that he was made to protect him. However, the Emperor corrects him, saying, "No, you were made to protect what I created." Which to me greatly implies the protection of the Imperium. And if Russ was made to protect the Imperium, then so too were his legion. The legions were still to be the Imperium's protectors after the Great Crusade. Guilliman may lament the loss of Ultramar, feeling that the wider sphere of influence it once had could have somehow been a beacon of integrity. For me, it's the loss of all the legions that truly cost the Imperium the greatest. I really feel that threat of punishment, of repercussion, would have far more kept certain power-drunk individuals in line than the threat of the chapters ever did. Guilliman was the one who decided to break them up, not the Emperor. Now, in fairness, the Imperium's fall to faith would have absolutely been equally defining, and that was something Guilliman had no part of. But it has to be said that that too was not a part of the Emperor's vision. The very basis for it was to rid humanity of faith, not embrace it. The dogma and zealotry how this became prosecuted across the galaxy, for all its benefit, must have absolutely played a role as well, as science gave way to the Imperial creed. So considering all this, I can't help but feel the Emperor's intention was right. Guilliman simply isn't looking at it the right way. He may have given leadership to mortals as his father wished, but he didn't do it in the Imperium his father would have had. The Emperor's vision for humanity may have had them governing themselves, but it was an Imperium that relied on science, reason over faith. It had legions for protection, not chapters. And most of all, it still had him, the Emperor of mankind. But as always everyone, what do you think? Was the Emperor's intention to let humanity govern themselves a flawed desire? Or was it the best future the Imperium could have? Like me, do you feel that Guilliman should take some accountability? That his dissolution of the legions absolutely played a role in the Imperium's decline? And yes, he may well have given governance over to the mortals like his father wished, but he was doing so not in the Imperium his father would have had. As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. With that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.